Today I will show you how to take the Pro Q4 and turn it into a vocoder.
Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV. Today we're going to be taking the Pro Q4 and turning it into a vocoder. It's a really fun thing to do. It's a great exercise in signal flow. You can see we get a very clean signal if I put down our notes and then I just say something. Hello, 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 hello. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you've never messed with vocoders, it literally stands for voice encoder, and the idea is very simple. You have two signals, and when they both have the same frequency, you let that frequency go through. Now, if you want to get into the fancy words for these two signals, they have names. There's the carrier. That's the signal you're hearing. So right now I sound like a synthesizer. So the carrier is a synthesizer. And then it sounds like my voice, and that's the other signal, and that is the modulator. So the voice is modulating the synthesizer. And you can think of the carrier as the sound that you hear. It's the sound that carries the signal. This stuff comes from like radio terminology, electrical engineering, all that kind of stuff. But the idea is very, very simple. So what we need to get into the Pro Q4 is a carrier and a modulator, a sound that's gonna be the carrier, the thing that we want to sound like. So in this case, a synthesizer. And then we need to get our voice in there. And I have a very clean version. In fact, you can kind of see it even kind of looks like my voice right now. And that's because I am doing some fancy stuff with polarity to guarantee that we get a super clean signal. If you just send in your synthesizer and then turn it up when your voice hits, you're going to get a bunch of bleed. So let's go ahead and set this up and let me show you the mixer. Now the mixer looks kind of crazy. I am blowing out the signal right now with a very specific profile. If we were to open up the Q4 on my voice, there's an L2 here as well. This sort of controls the timbre of what I'm getting out of the voice in a really, really loud way, but this just ensures that the Twin 3 gets a really clean signal so that when I talk, if I want a lot more low end, I can get a lot more low end. If I want more sibilants, I can get more sibilants. And then how hard it bites down is controlled by the Q4 in here. For example, if I wanted it to really grip down on words, I could bring the release down, and now it's really tight. There's a delay, and it totally is going to throw me off. So sorry if that if I sound a little like disoriented sometimes. Okay, so let's set this up. So what will you need? You will need a synthesizer to start out. And I set this up with Twin 3. And when you pick your synthesis sound, this can have a massive impact on what you're going to sound like. So if I come in here and pick something like a different patch, and then I hit the notes, hello, hello, hello. You know, pretty cool, very different sound. We go for another one. Here's another one. And this one doesn't let very many frequencies through, so we don't get very much. If we go for something like a pluck, you know, this sound doesn't live very long. Hello. Hello. Check, check, check. Here we go. So you can see, in that case, I had to sustain my voice because there's very little times where they overlap. So the sound that you pick, they need to have similar frequency content so that stuff can actually get through. And they need to have a time span that actually makes sense. But you can do all kinds of cool stuff rhythmically. I mean, the creativity is, you can just make all kinds of cool things. I am going to go ahead and go for just the default sound, which is default sound, but the default sound is a pluck, so I offset them. And later on, I just decided to open them like myself. You just bring it up, and that is going to be our input. So you can do this with like another synth that's just got like a saw wave or something, or a square wave. Those are both good candidates because they have a lot of harmonics. So, okay, that's our base signal. That's what's going to be coming in. I have this coming into channel 3. So we've loaded a synth. It's playing something with a lot of harmonics. Then I've got my voice. My voice is literally taking the live mic input. I'm turning it up a bunch so that there is a really, really big delta. I'm using the L2 though, so I don't sound like I'm clipping like super hard. But I am aggressively bringing this up, like a 21 dB. That's just because this mic is a softer mic. And I actually have the gain up pretty high on it, but I'm also recording this video, and so I have the gain stage set for that. So that's why this is here. And then this Q4 is for tone shaping. I added this after the fact, but when you bring it in, you may notice that your sibilance isn't coming quite through enough, or maybe you're lacking low end. You can go ahead and turn this up or down. You can think of it just as an EQ for a super overblown setting. So that's how this one kind of works. Now this meter over here shows the one I have selected. If you look, the master doesn't actually have this coming out of it. So if you're going, oh, this is going straight out the master, it's not, don't worry. Okay, so at this point we have two things. We've got our synth, which I will color so that we can see it clearly, which is Twin 3, and then we've got our voice, which I'll also give it a color. We'll give it like this purple color. And so these two are coming in. Now what we need is we need a way to get the synthesizer to cancel with itself. We need it to phase cancel. And the reason for this is we need a difference. So our voice is going to sometimes influence the synth. And when it influences the synth, we want it to turn up frequencies according to whatever our voice is. So if our voice has a lot of 4K in it, we want it to turn the synth up at specifically 4K. And the idea is if we only turn it up at 4K, it'll sound like our voice is coming through the synth because they match up. So if we were to just do that though, without canceling the synth with itself, you'll get all the other frequencies in the synthesizer, because the synthesizer, we might turn it down with the filter. In fact, we could set it up real quick. It's not a hard thing to set up. To set this up, I am going to route my voice, and I'm going to route it to channel 6. Now, this is a super loud signal. You do not want to hear this signal. It's going to scare the heck out of you because it's going to be super loud coming through your speakers. I'm going to shift click, and this routes it as a sidechain signal. In different DAWs, this is different. This is how you do it in FL. And then we want to also take our synthesizer and route it to our experimental channel. Sort of our first attempt. I'm going to make it blue so we can see it. And then on this channel, we're going to load a Q4. This was my first attempt. This is kind of what I thought, just so you understand in the next steps why we're going to be so weird about what we're doing. But that's basically it. Now, when I play notes, this is going to come through. Now, this is actually quite soft right now, but we can hear it coming through, right? And we can see it. There you go. Now, the idea is, hey, we're just going to basically, this is how I first thought we'll do it. We'll just turn it down a bunch, right? It's very soft, but you've got bleed. That's the problem. And then we'll go into our cog and we'll turn on the side chain. So I come in here, I go to this plugin icon thing with this, and then I choose the voice since that's our side chain input. And then we're going to make this a dynamic band. We're going to let it turn up when the voice plays. We're going to make it spectral so it matches our voice. And then we're going to activate sidechain. Now, if it's not spectral, it'll just move the whole band, which is an issue, right? We want it to be spectral. And now when I play notes, we can hear it coming through. But you hear all that bleed. There's a ton of bleed as well. So if you try to turn this up to make it louder, you're going to bring up all this bleed. It's not going to sound good. So this was my first attempt, and I realized, we need a way to cancel the synth with itself. And the whole idea is we take a copy of the synth and we phase invert it. Then when we add them, they'll perfectly cancel. Then we can just apply this process to one of the sides, the non-inverted side, and there will be a difference, and that difference will allow it to come through very cleanly. And that will let me do much more clean vocoding. Because at this point, it's kind of like vocoding. It's like an EQ curve style vocoding. So let's go ahead and set that up. How do you set this up? Well, let's turn off our experimental channel. We're all done. I am going to dismantle it so that it doesn't like come back to bite me. Okay, here's how this is set up. Let's start with the synth because, right, that's the big issue is we have this bleed. So I've got the synth coming in. This could be literally any synth because I'm using the mixer to do this. And so I'm playing some notes, they're coming in, but you don't hear anything. That's critical. So I have it split. You can see it's coming to this channel, synth, and then this one that's labeled synth inverted. And I have the polarity flip on. So this flips the polarity. If this is not on, they're going to sum. And let me turn on the output. And you can hear them coming through. If I flip it, and then we put this through, Nothing. It's clean. Now you can hear my voice right now coming through. Okay, so we have a inverted signal. This is exactly what we want. Now, on one of them, we want to apply a difference. And since there's a difference, that difference will be let through. So on the non-inverted version, I have a Q4. And I'm going to do stuff here. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking these two channels and I am sending them to a bus. We'll call this the vocoder bus. This is the final vocoder output. I don't know, we'll make it blue or something. And they are both coming to this channel. You can see they're both being routed as audio signals straight there. The voice is being routed to the channel, the non-inverted channel that's got the Pro Q4 on it. And this is being routed as a sidechain signal. And it's the exact same, well, it's not the exact same setup. It's a little bit different. I still have a shelving filter. And in fact, we could even make this like 96 dB, make it like really sharp or whatever. It doesn't matter a ton because it's a big signal. But essentially, let's set this up from scratch. So I'll go ahead and bypass this one. And we will add another Q4 to this. So I'm going to add a Q4. We'll hide this one so it's not confusing. And again, this one, let's check where we're loading it, is on the synth, the non-inverted synth. And we have our voice being sidechained to it. These two, the synth and the non-inverted synth, are being routed to our final vocoder output, okay? So it's important that you understand the voice is being sidechained. Now, in the synth, I'm going to come up to the cog and I'm going to go to processing. And I am going to choose the stereo sidechain to be the voice. So now Pro Q4 can see the voice signal coming in. And what's critical is if I don't do anything, the signals will cancel, right? Because this right now is a Pro Q4 with no difference on it. And this has nothing on it. So this is like the two signals are just summing. One is not inverted and one is inverted. So when you put them together, they cancel each other out. See how we have no signal on the output, which is right here. So now if I come in and I introduce a difference like that, we're going to hear them change. And so what we're going to do is, I think you can see where I'm going with this. We'll take this, we'll set our gain back to 0. I'm just adding a shelving filter. That's why I click over here. You could always just make it a shelving filter. I am going to give it a big boost, but I am going to make this band a sidechain band. So I'm making it dynamic by just clicking above and just dragging here. Then if we click the little expansion arrow, we get a little sidechain input, which we configured earlier. So this will now take my voice and now it's pulsing when I talk because I've wired my mic to this. I'm going to make it spectral so that it behaves on a per frequency basis. I'll bring the spectral density up so it's just got a higher resolution. I'm going to bring the attack down so it just responds a little bit quicker. And we have ourselves a vocoder. Now there's a couple of nice things I've added to this. So first off, the release, if you have it much closer, it'll chop off quicker. And if you have it longer, it'll take longer for these bands. See how much longer they take? So if I say something, they're still moving. So you get a little bit more bleed. So this is kind of like a tightness control. And I'm doing a couple of things. You may notice that you're lacking certain things. You could try adjusting the carrier, but on the voice, I added this crazy EQ curve. And if you are going to adjust the gain of the modulator, of the carrier signal, the synthesizer, the thing you sound like, you're going to want to do it on the initial channel. You don't want to adjust either one of these because this will create a permanent difference, a permanent offset between the two channels. If I make this one softer, then I play some notes, we get a bunch of bleed because they no longer match. So these two have to match. So I just leave these alone. If I'm going to adjust the synth's volume, I change it here. Once you have your gain stage set up, then you can just use the vocoder to control the length. And then I slapped a little bit of reverb on it at the end just to make it sound a little bit nicer. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I know it sounds a little crazy, but once you set it up once and you see it, it's it's not that crazy. And it's kind of cool. You're doing this with a friggin' equalizer. This is nuts. If you have something to do spectral processing, you can do this. And, cool
Cool
way
way
to do some vocals, cool way to mix it in and out, cool way to do some percussion. It's kind of in the number of bands. Typically in vocoding, you have a certain number of frequency bands it considers, and that's kind of like your spectral density here. So if you want a less dense, like more broad sound, you could bring this down or you could bring this up, and away you go. And there you have it. You have a
vocoder, vocoder, vocoder.
pretty cool. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.